Way better role. Way better. Like, love it. I'm like,
Ready?
okay. This is Haley. And this is Bailey. You're listening to Unleashed. Last night I went to hot yoga, and I did hot yoga I think like once in high school, and I remember sweating and it was just like grossed me out because it felt like little bugs running all over me, and I just never went back. So I went yesterday and I actually really liked it more than I thought. I think I just maybe went into it like with a different perspective, but it's just so different than other workout classes. And obviously like every workout class is so different. But when I was in this class, I was thinking about how people have such specific classes they like, and you just like stick to that, I feel like, usually.
Yeah. Okay, but like hot yoga low-key grosses me out.
I was in the class and I was like, you would not. I was literally like in my like pose and I was like, Haley would not like this class.
It's not so much about like doing yoga. I mean, I can't do yoga until after my surgery, but it's the fact that since it's hot yoga, everybody gets sweaty, right? I would assume everyone's sweating.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so gross. And when I see people sweat, like drip, like need a towel, or like I don't know why, but I will start gagging. Like Bryce, when he works out and he starts dripping, I'm like I have to like hold back. I'm like, Bryce, you need a towel, like please. Like, this is so gross.
Please leave.
I've been that way since I was a little girl though too. It's not like a new thing.
I feel like I totally get that. I think maybe that's why when I was in, I was like, this just doesn't seem like something Haley would like. I didn't bring a towel. I actually had a towel and I left it on the table when I left, and you definitely need a towel because.
So you just like dripped everywhere?
Yeah, pretty much.
With hot yoga too, I mean, so it's like everyone's doing it, but at the same time, I'm like, was it a good class? Like, was the yoga? I mean, I hear people think that yoga is kind of boring because it's slow.
This class was actually fast paced and more of a workout. Even my friend that does yoga all the time that I went with, she was like, this is like different than other yoga classes I've been to, which I really liked. I'm not a huge fan of like slow yoga or like staying in a pose for a really long time. I like things to be fast paced. So I really liked it, but I also was texting a friend this morning and she's like, oh, I just tried hot yoga and I didn't love it. It was really slow. So this is something that I like say all the time about trying workout classes. I really think it also comes down to finding like the studio you really like. Cause I always say that with Pilates. I'm like, there's been studios I've gone to, and if that would have been my first time, I would have probably never gone back.
You know, it's really interesting because I think about how you're the only person that could get me to a new workout class. Like, you got me to go to Pilates, and then you're like, maybe not hot yoga. And I'm just thinking, like, the last thing you're going to want to experience during a nice meditation, like yoga class or whatever, is hearing someone in the background going, ugh, like gagging. And so I probably would ruin that for everyone. It's like that Grinch. Have you seen that Grinch that's doing yoga? And he's like, ah! He's like screaming in the middle of the class. That would be me.
That would be so funny.
Let everything in, out. Yeah, that would be really funny. A lot of people get really nervous with the thought of working out in public. Like I used to really like going to gyms, but I don't know what they call it. I call it gym intimidation. I'm trying to combine the words. Gymtidation. Imitation. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, but like you get intimidated by seeing other people work out. And I mean, I remember in college, I would go to the school gym and guys would either hit on you or they try to help you and critique you. And like, I get that there's trying to help when you're like in the wrong form or whatever, but at the same time I'm like, let me hurt myself, like leave me alone. Like I feel like going to like
an actual gym takes like, if I can get into a routine, I'll like it. Or if I'm like with Evan, who like when I run out of things to do, I can ask him and he's like, oh, you could do this or that. That helps me. But when I just go, I definitely get nervous because I'm like, I run out of things. I don't exactly know what I'm doing. If someone's on a machine I want, I'm like, I'm not going to ask or wait for that because that's not my personality. And I think that's why I actually really like classes so much, because it's like you go in and it's like, you're in a class getting told what to do. It's exact time.
And like, people usually aren't paying attention to you as much because they're not like waiting on you. And so you're able to like just focus on what you're doing.
I'm such a class person. Like I love going to class. It's actually funny.
Do you go to meet new people, or do you go just for the workout, or do you go for both?
I go just for the workout. I love talking to different people in the classes, but I will say, like, really connecting with people in a workout class is hard. I feel like unless there's time at the beginning and you're sat next to someone you don't know and you start a conversation, it's kind of hard to really connect with someone, I feel like, at a workout class, unless you're going at the same time and you're always running into each other. But I haven't had like a huge success on making new friends at workout classes, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Before I went to the Pilates class here, I looked up the instructor on Instagram and I was like, that was dumb. That was so dumb. I got all intimidated. I'm like, you look like you know what you're doing. Obviously. Like that's like you want them to look like they know what they're doing. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I don't think we could ever be friends. Just like if I'm like basing it off of like you probably were a cool girl in high school and like had your like ducks in a row, and I was not that person. I just got all intimidated. But I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm going. I'm still gonna go. Like I need to make sure I do not look up the instructors on Instagram. Except I do know some of the girls that teach Pilates in my hometown, and I was like, do I avoid that or do I
You
just like
go.
push through?
You should go.
You think I should
Just push
go?
through. Yeah, what if you reconnect? You
They
don't
probably,
know.
let's be real now, they probably wouldn't even recognize me because I just like I don't feel like they would.
I feel
But
like
I'm
I've
I
run
know
into
you.
so many people in my hometown when I was going to Pilates that like I knew or kind of knew, or I definitely have had that. But I also feel like once you're in the class, like no one's like, you're not really like paying attention to each other. So it's like either you say, hey, like you remember each other, or you kind of just do your thing and you don't
I
really
know.
ever connect.
I know. I think
I
that's
feel
like
like it goes
some of
one
my
two ways.
worries. Like people are gonna be like, "You're doing it wrong." I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing to be honest, because I've never done this before. Like everyone has to start from somewhere, and so I think that's like a huge concern for a lot of people is that they just are like, "Oh gosh, I'm gonna get judged for this," and that's not always
I
the
felt like that
case.
yesterday in yoga. I was like, am I gonna look like I don't know what I'm doing? Like, is it so obvious I don't know what I'm doing? But then I was like, you look around, you kind of get the hang of it pretty quick, I feel like, especially if you've done other workout classes. I mean, I have definitely gone to classes and embarrassed myself. Like, I went to a class with my cousin in Nashville. We did like a dance class, and I have never been so uncoordinated in my life trying to figure out dance moves. And
What did
it's
you? What kind of
embarrassing.
dancing was it?
I can't even remember. I just remember it's like so fast paced and they're like teaching you like a
Was it
quick,
like solo dancing, like hip hop, or was it like the waltz?
no, like
Where
hip
you had a
hop, like
partner?
no. It's just like
Okay, so
you're
it's
doing
not
your
like
thing.
you're
They
like
give you,
waltzing around. You have your pop, lock,
no,
and
but it's like
drop.
quick. It's like supposed to be a workout class. So it's like, and then I also did spin with my cousin and I'd never done it. And it was my first time. And I like came into the class like a little late and I just like jumped into it. And I was like, there was so much coordination. I was like, this is a little
Really?
confusing. Yeah. Cause you're like dancing kind
Is
of on
spin
the
one of those
bike.
classes that you think is like it's a challenge, obviously, but it's like it's harder than it looks?
For sure. It was actually really fun. It's like a very upbeat, like gets you excited, gets you, but like there's a lot of moving with the bike. And I was like, this is a little too much coordination for me at this moment.
Oh my gosh, I've never done any of those. Literally, Pilates was the first like public workout I think I ever did. Minus like I did running in elementary school, but
I think it's fun
okay.
to try different classes just to see what you like. But I also think, I was actually going to say this, like going with somebody, like when we went together, that's kind of what pushed you to do Pilates. Or like I went to yoga with a friend yesterday. Like I probably wouldn't have just like gone maybe, like I usually just go to Pilates. I know Pilates. I have done it for so long. So when I'm in new places, it's easy just to jump into that, even if it's a little different at each studio. But I think sometimes like having somebody push you or asking, I was actually like trying to think, I was like, do I know anybody here in Florida? Because I saw this like free people workout on Saturday on like a rooftop. And I was like, that looks so fun. I was like, but it'd be way more fun if I like went with somebody. I think those things like, especially a first time, like going with somebody helps a lot. Like I did a kickboxing class because somebody asked me to go do it. And I was like,
Oh
okay,
my
that was
gosh,
fun.
Bailey, you've done everything.
You guys
Kickboxing.
gotta try
I've wanted to
them.
do kickboxing. Yeah, I'm like,
It was fun.
really?
We'll have to try a class together whenever we're together next. Try something new
Wait,
outside of our
kickbox
comfort
each
zone.
other?
No. You like it's like a bag.
Oh, you like
I've
punch
done
bag?
I've done like I've done self defense classes where you like actually do it with somebody, but that was something different. That wasn't like a workout.
I just think of that scene in Friends where they're like unagi.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I think of when people say, I took a self defense class. I'm like, "Duh!" Okay, so I mean, I understand that going to a workout class is a lot less intimidating when you have someone to go with you. But I mean, not everybody has that ability. And so, I mean, would you ever reach out to someone on social media or like find someone? Like there's that app Bumble. I think we briefly talked about it in a different podcast, but would you ever like find someone on there to go to a workout class with you, or would you just go by yourself?
I think I do either. I've done where I've just gone by myself, but I also actually yesterday I was like, oh, I have like 4 people who reached out to me on social media and were like, hey, do you want to get coffee or do you want to go on a run? Or they had asked me that. I was like, maybe I'll ask one of them to go to the free people class, even though I've never met them. I was like, maybe I'll just ask them to go. You never know. It's like a fun if you like working out and doing that stuff. So I'm open to either. I think it's just like having that opportunity, especially when you maybe don't know people in the area or you're new to the area. Because I'm new to a lot of areas a lot of the time. So it's like meeting new people. And I think that is just like, I think I do either, but I think either of them, you're going to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I don't think it's going to make you the most comfortable the first time you do it. Either way, you do it.
Yeah. I think it really just kind of comes down on those kind of workouts, like the one with the rooftop. It just depends on what they're doing. What's the workout?
I think it was yoga, but I didn't look too far into it.
Gotcha. That seems to be a pretty common one for those like public workout ones. It's easy for a bunch of people to like show up and do. Well, that's cool. But I definitely love the idea. Like I told when I went to Colorado for Thanksgiving, I told my sister, I'm like, let me go try out a Pilates class and like see how it is, and maybe I'll take my niece. And my sister's like, oh, I'll go. And I was like shocked. I was like, wait, you want to go? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I had no idea. She's like, I've never done it before. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, cool. It was like cool to see that she was interested in trying it. I never got around to it. I was so sad. So I'll have to try it maybe next time I'm there. But I think it's really interesting that a lot of people I think have that desire to meet up with people and try these new things, but they just don't have that ability, and it's hard. Like, I mean, it's weird to me to think about that. We met on the internet, like strangers, and I mean, now we're going. I mean, we went to Pilates classes, like we're gonna have a podcast, like all that stuff. It's just weird because that's not a normal circumstance. If you think about that 10 years ago, people were not doing that.
Yeah, and it's hard to make friends as you get older if you especially if you work remotely or you're not, always
Yeah.
doing new things and meeting new people. And that's something that I really had to push myself to do. Like if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous going to meet up with somebody new. Like it's out of my comfort zone. Like I don't really love it." But now that I've done it a few times, I feel like I've gotten more confident in it. And you can go do I always love to start with like a coffee. I think that's like a good like happy medium of just like going, having a coffee, being able to chat, get to know each other. And then after that, you can decide like, was that a friendship you want to keep, hanging out with them, or maybe it wasn't the right like match. And I don't think it's not everybody's going to be that perfect match when you meet a friend, but like we met on the internet and this is like, look what this turned into. You just
I
never
know.
know.
It's so unique, I think, to be able to have that ability, but it's hard, especially for people who don't do social media. We've talked about how it's not as easy to meet people. And I mean, that's why they have multiple resources out there for people to have the opportunity to meet together and, find those friends. But I mean, I've thought about doing certain apps that like Bumble, and I don't know, it gets me so nervous just because I don't want to like put myself out there but then not be able to follow through with that person. Does that make
Well,
sense?
you also have
And
to
I think that's a
remember
lot of
they're
problems with
putting
adult friendships too.
for sure is one like following through. Like you mean like showing up and being able to actually do it?
I mean, that makes me very nervous as well. It's the physical act of like going, like I don't know. But yeah, like being able to like consistently maintain that. Like,
That's
the
why I
idea of
saw
starting a
somebody's
friendship
story.
over is just exhausting.
We both follow Emma on Instagram. Her account name is by Emma Shea. And she shared recently on a story that she was on Bumble BFF. Bumble BFF? Bumble Friend. Is that what it is?
Bumble BFF. What version of Bumble are you looking at?
Isn't Bumble's a dating app too? There's two
It
versions
is?
of it. Yeah.
Say what? Find a
Maybe I'm
date.
calling it, maybe I'm making it its own name.
You are. Bumble is dating and friends. It's a 2-in-1. It's a twofer.
She had mentioned that she actually had tried to make friends on Bumble. And one of the things she found the hardest was one, not everyone is obviously like that connection, but she also mentioned like keeping up and texting. You both have to be a good texter. And she had mentioned she's not a good texter. And that's something I totally agree with. That's something I have learned so much from being a long distance friend. That's what I am pretty much to all my friends right now is I've learned that you really do have to like put in that effort of texting and being able to text and like pick up the phone and call each other, especially when you're new friends. It's hard to have those conversations because you're starting out with such simple things, but it feels like you're putting yourself out there. It's nerve-wracking. There's so many variables to it, but you also have to remember something like for you, like if you really do want to check out the app is you're not the only one putting yourself out there. The other person is also, and you're both going into it with those same nerves, being nervous to meet somebody new. And it's not just you. And I think that can sometimes take that like fear of it off, more than thinking it's just you that's scared or nervous or putting yourself out there, because it is a lot of work putting yourself out there and
It
it is
is.
scary.
I definitely have like messaged other people before on Instagram. I've maybe like a couple and put myself out there, and like they'll like follow like through and they'll be back and be like, yeah, let's meet up, like let's hang out. And then like we'll have like one meetup and then I get all nervous and they're like, yeah, let's go for dinner. And I'm like, okay, like that my social like meter's full for the year. Like, oh my gosh, and I feel bad because I'm like, I can't have my cake and eat it too. I realize like you can't expect to have a friendship if you're not willing to do the work. And that's like, how do you overcome those humps is really hard, especially when it comes to meeting strangers on the internet. Like, there's a lot of things we have to take in consideration, like being safe. Like, I am so paranoid about all of that. Like, it almost inhibits me from being able to be comfortable and
Yeah, I
like
think it's
myself a
finding
little
that
bit.
balance too. Like most of
Yeah.
the people like I meet up with, like I've really looked at their social media. Usually they're posting kind of consistently, so you kind of know what they're like. You have an idea, and obviously you're safe. Like you tell Bryce, or I tell Evan. I think one of the biggest motivators for me is, especially being on the road full time, living in an RV with Evan, is like having that time that's like girl time, because I think that's really important for me and for like Evan and I, is being able to like after I went out and hung out with one of my friends, we were both like, it was so nice to have girl time. Like, it's so nice to talk to Evan, but it's also so nice to like go and sit with a girl and just like have girl talk and be able to come back and tell Evan about it. And, there are so many fears that can come in with, is this person like, is it safe? Is it this? But like, go to a public place, go to do coffee, make sure you like check their Instagram and make sure Bryce knows where you're at. It's not like you're meeting up at their house, it's not like you're doing something
Yeah.
too
Well,
like,
like, I think that too, there's a lot of stereotypes behind finding friends, and I think that that can often scare people, like for especially with, like you said, oh, so it's nice to have girl talk, but sometimes that can be so intimidating because people aren't as, I don't know, understanding, or they can be judgmental, or they'll like go behind your back, and like just because of previous like relationships and friendships, you're worried about getting hurt. Like I definitely have had long-term friendships and then they can come to a brutal stop because something's happened, and it's like
for
I
sure.
get
I have a
nervous about
question
that.
for you actually, because it's something I've noticed. We both share a lot, obviously, on our podcast and on our Instagram. Do you feel that helps you at all with those friendships because you've already shared it like on the internet, that sharing it with them isn't like something that they could, I guess, like you feel like they could, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like sometimes we're not telling them stuff. Like you said, you could get hurt because you're opening up and you're telling them these things. But a
Oh,
lot of the
like
stuff
being
we've
more
already
vulnerable.
shared, yeah, being more vulnerable because we've already
Um,
sat here and talked about it and it's already on the internet.
I think I how do I answer this? That's a good question. I think it has in some ways. I don't know if it necessarily has made me help me be more vulnerable, but I think it's definitely helped me be able to be more of an advocate and a support for other people, because I do experience, like, for example, people are so rude and bully online, and so I tell my sister, like, this is something to look out for if your kids ever get social media, like make sure they, like kind of those kinds of things, but then also how to approach a person and be like, I can empathize with you, or I sympathize with you, or having that little bit more of a perspective on it, because I do have a little bit more of a touch with other people's worlds and perspectives from what they see. Now I know obviously what you see on social media isn't always like 100% of what's going on, but people do share their vulnerabilities. Like I'm sharing my whole journey about how I was trying to heal my cyst, my uterus cyst, with acupuncture and natural Eastern medicine. And I came to find out I need to have surgery, and I did not want to do that. And that was so hard for me to share. And I think it's more humbling, I think, for me, just because I realize I'm not perfect. And that's okay. Does that make I
That's
don't
what
know,
I think.
does that
Yeah,
answer the
no,
question?
I was going to say that I feel like because I started to share more of my life on social media, not just like Hudson, but I share a lot of my life too. I feel like that feeling of when I meet a new friend, of feeling like I have to be perfect or not say the wrong thing, is kind of been taken off me because I share so much, and I've kind of gotten over that. Oh, I'm not perfect. Like, this is my life. This is what I'm sharing. You're going to like really get to know me. And I actually walked away from like a coffee recently and I was like, Tevin, I was like, I didn't overthink it. Like, I didn't overthink what I said. I didn't feel like I had to be perfect because I'm already sharing so much. I feel like on my page, and obviously there's like a line. Like, I only share what I'm comfortable with, but it's made me more confident in just like accepting and maybe not overthinking when I go on those first like friend meetups, because it's not as like new maybe to share like that
Yeah. No, that
beginning
makes
friendship
sense.
stuff.
Well, and I think it also it's I think with as we've gotten older and like with the times that we're in, with seeing all these people on the internet and seeing these strangers and having these fears of meeting them and making the friendships as we are today, it's taught us how to, at least it's taught me, that's my takeaway, that it's okay to have differences and still be friends. I think that a lot of the things we see today on the internet and a lot of things we see from friendships is that you can't have a strong friendship if you have different beliefs, whether if that's political, religious, social, you know, your lifestyle. Like, I mean, there's so many things I think that I've realized, like, I could still be friends with them even if we don't agree on every aspect, but there's just different levels of it. And I think a lot of the times when people have a friendship, that can sometimes be intimidating for them because they don't know how to handle people who have differences from them. And that can put a little bit of a wall up with them.
Definitely. I think every friendship has something different and brings something different, and you connect with every person for a different reason. And I think that's something I've learned so much about with making so many new friends, is finding that balance, that not every friend is going to be that best friend that you talk to everything with, that to them about everything. Hello, my words. Um, but you know, some friends you talk to a little bit, and some friends know a lot about you, and some friends you really like to go work out with, and some, you know, like every person
Yeah.
brings something different. And I think that's what I've loved so much about meeting new people, and also taking that pressure off of not everybody's going to be that friend that
Yeah.
you tell
Well, it's
every
giving you
single thing to.
confidence, it sounds like. It sounds like you're able to approach these situations more with confidence. Like you said, you didn't overthink it. And I think often too, I saw a reel that said in social situations, and often with a lot of people who have anxiety, they are trying to control situations they can't control. But then on top of that, they're thinking a lot about themselves in a social environment. And if you stop thinking about yourself in a social environment, or when you're having a conversation with someone who is like really hard to have a conversation with, take yourself out of it and treat it almost like a job interview. But that can suck sometimes because it's like it's nice to have a two-way conversation where they ask you about your life and vice versa. But sometimes in those situations, people are, if you, the more comfortable you make someone else in a conversation, the more comfortable you're going to be as well, because people can talk about themselves all day long, I've realized. And that's something I've learned a lot through my husband, is that he works in sales. And so he's like, people can talk about themselves all day long. So all you have to do is ask them about their job. What do they do? And what does that look like? How do they qualify for that? What does training look like for that? Is it something they enjoy? Do they have hobbies? Like, there's so many things you can like work off of that. And the more you get them talking and feeling comfortable, the more you'll feel comfortable and stop thinking about yourself in that situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's something I feel like I do a lot of too. And it's super, and when you're getting to know somebody, you want to know that about them anyways, and you kind of want to chat, and then it gets you talking and you connect on something, and then it goes in a different direction. And I think that's a great way to start, especially when you are going to meet somebody new and make new friends, and maybe try a new workout class and meet somebody new. I think
Yeah,
those are all great things to think about when you are
totally.
starting out those beginning conversations.
Well, yeah. And like in one of our friend episodes, I said one of the, like a quick way I can, most of the time I can get to know someone really quick, is by asking them a specific question, and it's what is their favorite movie. And I remember we talked a little bit about this, but like their response can say a lot about who they are as a person. Not always, but I think that I've also heard that by the type of shoes people wear, you can tell a lot about who they are. Like if they're more of classic, like comfortable, if they're more efficient. I've heard between shoes and the movies they watch, I think that can help tell you a lot about what a kind of a person someone is and if you'll get along with them. But that's not always the case. I know I'm contradicting myself out like the crazy right now, but I think that if you're trying to get to know someone, ask them what their favorite movie is.
Yeah, ask them different questions, ask about, you know, like just have fun with it. I think that's the biggest part about it is going into it. Like when we met in Hawaii and it was fun and relaxing. And, there was like that aspect to it that probably took the pressure off of it. And, there's just so many different ways to really go about it. And I feel like that's something I've been learning so much of lately is that every friendship is going to be different. Go into it and just get those conversations going. If it flows and it feels like it works great, then keep it going. But sometimes it can hit that like, oh, I don't really know what else to talk about, and that can be awkward. But I feel like having those questions also helps. Like, what's your favorite movie? What's this? Like, just keeping things going because people can get like uncomfortable or awkward, especially at the beginning when you don't know somebody.
Yeah, it can be uncomfortable. I definitely was nervous meeting you for the first time in person. I I was like, what if the conversation doesn't flow or whatever? I'm really glad that we brought Evan and Bryce because I was so worried that like if things with us like what isn't flowing, like they could definitely help. And I mean, it was fine. It turned out great, but it's definitely nice to have a buffer there. So if like you're going to meet someone and like say, hey, let's bring our spouses or whatnot, like, or bring, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your mom, I don't know, just bring someone. Now, if you brought your mom, I'd be totally down for that. She's great.
And I think it also is good, like, do it like that. But then for us, like, we also did our thing. And I think that is a different dynamic. And I think every time, like, if you do different things, it does bring different dynamics out. Even, like, we've done so many, like, as our friendship has progressed, we've done trips where it's, like, with our guys. And then we've done trips where it's just me and you. And we've had such a different experience on all those because it brings out, like we said earlier, girl time and then time.
Exactly.
And then we love being able to hang out with both our guys and do all that, too.
If you've ever tried Bumble, or any type of friend or dating app, whatever you want to call it, or you've had a new way of meeting someone, let us know. I'm very curious to hear about your experiences with it because I downloaded Bumble, but I deleted it after like a month of not using it. I was like, no, I don't have time for that right now. And then I'm kind of curious just to like poke around in it a little bit, just to see like what it's all about. So if you tried it, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. I want to hear too. I think it'd be fun. I mean, it's something I definitely want to look into. Maybe not right this second because I feel like I have like a lot going on, but at some point, definitely sounds exciting and sounds fun.